But the tragedy is, as I said, he entered the goals, problems, and masses from below 2 on the tone scale, bypassed all of the charge and all of the power and force that was above it, and by going in low like that and trying to... And the other thing he didn't do, unfortunately, was he did not actually run out or erase the identities. All he did was oppose them, found their matching partners, and that tended to null them out so they didn't read on the meter anymore. But they're still on the case. So once again, that was a lot of bypass charge. Now, I saw a lot of cognitions and folk going, wow, see, the difficulty was, if you go back in the early days, predominantly what was going on, folk were trying to get rid of something that bothered them, instead of addressing their powers and abilities and literally processing the positive. For example, something else that we found, if you go to the PABs in 1954, Hubbard actually, Ron wrote 2 PABs. One was called the first postulate, and the other one is called the postulates. And if you remember what he said was the first postulate was to not know. Well, that's unfortunate. If you seriously, I mean, intellectually you can figure out, okay, that's pretty clever, but in terms of playing games and relating with folk, if you'd have put a negative postulate like that there, to not know, or to not love, or to not relate, you'd actually have no game. So in actuality, the first postulate really ought to have been a positive, like to relate, to love, to know, And these are the attributes that really ought to be focused on to be restored and empowered and recovered for you. See? I'm giving you that viewpoint. It's a different viewpoint. Instead of wanting to get rid of stuff all the time, it's worthwhile addressing your positive attributes. Now, I don't know anybody. Alan Walder did a complete write-up of the actual attributes. He actually rewrote what he called Axiom 1. Axiom 1, Ron had 2 Axiom 1s, the Dianetic Axiom and the Scientology Axiom. And he says that in Scientology Axiom 1, life is basically a static. Now, I don't know that that's terribly right. The source of life may be static, okay? But the static also has lots of attributes, one of which is infinite potential, infinite presence, infinite love, infinite knowledge. See, all of these capacities. And the key one is infinite potential and presence, from which you can then work to recovering them. And there's processes available for doing that, rather than getting involved in trying to run out physical universe accidents and implants, you see.
What are the 4 identities you were going to make up?
Say again?
The 4 identities, you said there were only 4.
The 4, well, there's the power identity, which is the causa on this one. The complement of it, or the reciprocal, is the receiver identity. That's the complementary power identity. And down the bottom on the right-hand side, when it goes negative, it becomes, in my case, I'm not suggesting what your items would be, if you've got that kind of a matrix on your case, but down the bottom it becomes weak, overwhelmed, totally affected, weak. Okay? It's no longer really, doesn't have the volition to choose to receive or not. It is just overwhelmed, weak. And on the bottom left-hand side here, the negative expression of the causa is a malicious identity, which is angry, destructive, all those nasty stuff. And of course, once the being gets down on this level, they're committing their harmful acts and they're committing violations and building up all kinds of extra charge and totally caving themselves and the game in. Now, running out these identities is great fun. It's an amazingly expanding exercise. You literally unlock the collapsed universes that occur. I'm just looking around here and watching what's happening, and I see collapsing universes and expanding universes. But seriously, when you begin to run these matrices out and erase these identities, and part of it is you've actually got to run how the identities opposed each other. You know, how did the causer identity oppose the receiver? And it did get down into opposition. And how did the weak identity oppose the power causer identity? Cross oppose. That's how it all got locked up. And the outcome of running one of these is you become very hugely omnipresent as a spiritual being. You're actually able to span space and truly be at one with others. You're no longer sort of separate, detached, and trying to throw a communication across some sort of empty space. You're actually with the person, and your thoughts actually get duplicated by them, give or take their case, but basically your thoughts get duplicated because you're there with them. I rewrote a communication formula for Alan. He published it in his book. It didn't say Roger wrote it. Naughty Alan. But one of the things that was missing in the original communication formula, it did not express that you as a spiritual being actually spans the whole game between you and the person you want to talk to. You're actually at where they are with them, and you perceive them. Okay? There's not this separate empty space that you throw something across to them. It sort of is inferred in the axioms and the communication formula, but if you're really operating, you're at one with them, and you literally manifest the concept that you want duplicated there, and they duplicate it. It's pretty simple. So it's you as a spiritual being perceiving, and now you can alternate between the emanator and the receiver of the communication.